Okay, let's call this meeting to order. The or strategy committee, whatever you would like to call it here. First thing on the agenda is public comments. At this time, anyone in the public that would speak to anything to the board or commission here that you'd like to talk about, whatever you may do so at this time, just state your name and address. If you'd like to come up in front and use the podium, that is great. If you'd like to stay where you are, if you just please stand or sit, whichever, and go ahead and tell us what you'd like to have to say. Don't be bashful. We'll move right on. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chairman Egan. I will be very brief. At the last county board meeting, during the agenda bullet point discussion of the county executive's report, I did voice a concern to Ethan that I thought there might be a conflict of interest with the executive's office involvement in the Spirit Fund Commission. And frankly, I had no desire for that to be true. Ethan specifically wanted a meeting, and I said that I didn't think my position was going to change, and it would remain the same. Unfortunately, my suspicions, based on the Neiman News article of August 25th, 2023, written by Bethany Gangler, confirmed it unfortunately. Quoted in the article was John Damo on the resolution to disperse monies to municipalities was to make sure municipalities were doing the right thing. Of course. Mr. Damo also indicated perhaps they, and I'm assuming that means supervisors, should read the resolution as they can. Mr. Damo, you're absolutely correct. And I owned that last Spirit Fund meeting and said that I didn't ask the right questions. You probably heard the statement, fool me once, but I'm going to tell you right now, there won't be it twice. Mary Ann Miller was quoted in the article, Corporation Counsel, saying you could certainly say the county board would like the money distributed as soon as possible, but you can't basically tell the county executive when to do this. Corporation Counsel was absolutely correct. Last paragraph of the article, Hollenberger states or sums up that the resolutions don't take effect until the county executive signs them. Shot across the bow, recognized. Tell me now that there is no conflict of interest without telling me there's no conflict of interest. The fact that the county executive is co-chair, suggests or approves agenda items contributing on this commission is Ethan Hollenberger, with either drafting, sponsoring, or co-sponsoring resolutions and then voting on it, and then having the position to sign or not sign is a conflict of interest. I wanted to be wrong. Chairman Egan, I have sent a correction measure to you via a resolution, and I absolutely rely on your insight whether that gets put on the agenda. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak at this time? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Shauna Zisseri, 1882 Federal Road, Oshkosh. Also serving at District 32. I would just like to share that I've asked for Chief Harbison's request. I've reflected his request for the fire departments, and I have not seen that has been approved yet. Correct me if I'm wrong. Fire departments across the board really need support. And the emergency management personnel, they are not part of the fire departments as far as I know, so they are separate and they are not receiving, there's a lot of gaps there as far as that goes. So that would be my ongoing ask. I brought it up before. I feel like that should have been something that would have been nice to have handled right away. Because that is just across the board. There's 22 townships that I'm thinking of at this point. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Just so everyone on the commission, you do have this on your, yes. First one where it was brought in. Anyone else wishing to speak? Anyone else wishing to speak on any other topics or anything? Okay, who's online that would like to speak?
Supervisor Moran.
Supervisor Moran.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just calling. I want to get something clarified. As I was looking through what you did, Beth, I was wondering if the total on the county portion of the townships and municipalities is independent of the charities that have been asking for money. So I'm thinking that that totals up to about what, $21 million for both of them. Is that correct?
Deputy or Beth?
Is it okay for me to answer?
Yes.
Yeah,
I will have Beth Oswald just answer this one.
and that's in reference to, I assume, this is what Kay's referring to. I did separate them out as here are just the community requests in the total. But it's also not all of the community requests. These community requests are the ones that fit in some shape or form with the framework, and the city, village, town requests are added up separately.
Okay, so that basically the municipalities are the 18 million and the charities that I've noticed are about 5 million. I'm doing approximate numbers here. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone else wishing to talk to the commission? Not seeing anyone else from here in the public or on Zoom. Continue on. Next thing on is approval of the minutes from August 10th. Move approval. Second. Motion made and second for the approval of August 10th, 2023 meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Carried. Update and discussion on towns and municipalities amendment.
Well, one of the reasons,
Yes.
all right, one of the reasons I asked to do this, I wanted Director of Finance, Paul Kaiser, to give us an update of where we're at. To be clear, I think the process is going well, in my opinion. We've had a few townships already have their projects paid for and the money's gone out. So we'll just let Director Kaiser give an update of where we are as far as municipalities that have already gotten their money versus municipalities that have checked the boxes, so to speak. And I believe there are 2 that we have not heard from yet, or at least had discussions with. Some are planning to do it in their budget process. I know the administrator from Fox Crossing said that this is something they want to do in their budget process. I'll make sure that they have a good plan, and still to make sure that their governing body approve of the use. And I would say there has been some criticism of changing the process, but that is good leadership, what you do when you adapt when there are barriers in front of you. We had talked about maybe the reimbursement wasn't exactly the right way, so that we adapted and gave 2 that I think were fair.
Which was appreciated.
Right, and that's what we should do. When we run against a roadblock, we shouldn't just be stubborn and say this is the way we originally thought. We should be able to learn as the process goes. So with that, I did ask Paul to kind of compare where we are with some municipalities and townships.
The town of Rushford money has been sent out via wire. Town of Amro should be sent out today and they should receive their money tomorrow. Town of Nina is about halfway through the process, received an email from them earlier this week regarding they're going to wait for their board and get a few more things straightened out and then submit for their request. Otherwise, town of Algoma has sent in some documentation. Town of Black Wolf has sent in some documentation. Town of Nina, I just talked about. Town of Oshkosh has sent in documentation. Huygen has sent in documentation. Town of Vinland has sent in documentation. Town of Winnebago and Village of Winnebago. They have not sent in everything, and they have not sent in the new standard agreement regarding advancement or using for the county. So I'm waiting on documentation. The rest of the municipalities have not sent any. That's where I'm at right now, waiting for the municipalities to contact, send in their information to the Spirit Fund email, which I am monitoring and reviewing each day for patients from them. And if they get the documentation in, based on the new agreement we sent out, I can get them and wire them their money, whether it's an advancement, whether it's to pay for county projects for the highway, or whether it's reimbursement of expenses.
If there's a township that has a problem doing it on their own, can they just call you? I know, town and EPS, had a complete turnover of their chairman and supervisors. Just here since the election, that's, got turned over again. And so they had all new, so they were completely lost on it, and I've been explaining it to them and told them how to do it the best I can, but, you know, it'd be better if they just talk to you and you could say, do this and get it in and.
They wanna call me, send me an email, so if the time to come in, we can walk through it. That's perfectly fine. Town of Makimi. Julie has asked me, county of, she basically is working and helping them with that, but she's asking me for guidance and help also. So yes, I am available. If they wanna call, email, or come in and actually visit.
Town of Utica hasn't sent anything in, cause I talked to their supervisor and he said you have that is all in.
Town of Utica, I have not received anything.
Okay, thank you.
At least through the Spirit Fund email. Some have been sending it to me. I have been then forwarding it on to the Spirit email address, so it is all in there for public record.
When it goes to Spirit email fund, where does that go? If it don't go to you,
Spirit at Winnebago County.
right, but who gets up with it?
I have access to that. Ethan has access to that. I'm not sure who else does, but I know me and Ethan definitely do have access to that email account.
Goes to Ethan and then to you, more
No,
or less.
it goes to the Spirit, right? I mean, if I go in my email here, I scroll down and Morrison see. Right here, I have an email address that says Spirit. And there's the inbox of all the emails that have come into the Spirit.
They don't get deleted or anything like that, they, you know.
I don't delete any, no. We can get IT to get a backup of that if we need me to prove that, but I do not delete nothing. I move them into the reviewed or saved, but most of them I just leave in inbox.
Any questions of the mission?
I have a question of
Yes, Supervisor Cox.
system here.
Now, this is just this now, what he's reporting on, okay?
Just on the report. When is drop dead day? When they can no longer.
December 31st of 2024.
Right. And do you foresee those people that, or those towns that have not presented themselves to you? Do you foresee sending them a particular, you know, confirmation that they're getting close? If they don't send everything, they better.
The last full email I sent was when I sent the new standard agreement. I mean, if the committee would like me to send a monthly reminder of this is the information I have from you, this is the information I need. I have a master schedule that is showing me what I have received from who. And basically it tells me which of the boxes I have from which municipality.
I would request on that there be some kind of a particular, you know, email or a particular letter that goes out to each one that has not presented themselves, and let them know that there is money available, but they have to respond. Because some people don't get their mail, okay, or they don't open their mail, or they wait until the next month to open their mail.
So on that subject, there was the list of emails I had sent out, got kickbacks of these are no longer valid using these emails. So I don't know who to contact to make sure I have the correct email contact. So if anybody can help me with knowing who to contact and make sure I have the right ones, that would be appreciated.
Like, I know like VPS, like we just talked about here, their new one will be in the book that's being printed now. The new chairman and supervisors and all that, so that they're supervised worker.
Just real quick, is this the application that we're using? And if it is, as I was saying, I don't see the return email on there at all.
This one, we proposed, this was a draft proposal, so I don't know exactly how others got a hold of this.
So does the application have the email address on? Or the standard one?
The standard agreement for the municipalities, the email is in that standard agreement.
There is, yeah, there is an email in here, folks. And they can use.
I didn't see it in here and I was going, if they don't have it in there, how do they know it's,
Yeah, but this is what,
that's the good one.
that's the good one.
This is not the good one.
No, that's.
Or the old one.
Well, this is the application, not the municipality.
That's where part of the problem,
This
you
is-
see that right there, municipality agreement and this other, that's where part of the problem's coming, and that's why you're not getting some. That's why I went and talked to the town of Armero, they didn't know that, talked to the town of Boykin, they thought that that includes 145, they didn't realize they were looking at all these other things to put in besides that, so. I think that's where some of the mix-up come as far as the 145,000 kids, why some of them weren't getting it out, at least in my area.
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor Cox.
isn't it our responsibility, since we've kind of put the money out there, we've now put the restrictions or whatever out there, isn't it our responsibility to really follow up with each individual town and municipality that we have given this to make sure that they're responding, or they say absolutely not, we're not gonna take it. I mean, one way or the other, just to clear the burning fire here.
That's what I did individually in my whole area that I represent.
Yeah,
I represent the county, but say District 33, I contacted each one of them, either chairman or supervisor or something. I went to even their meetings. I went
your
to,
due diligence is always good.
I don't know about that, but I mean, even the ones that are sitting right on this committee right here, it's,
I've done the same thing.
So,
4 towns,
yeah.
they're all aware.
Anyways, but right, I know we haven't. So, but, you know, and that's just something that I've done because I've been through it and, you know, how come the town of Rushford's got the money in? So it's kind of easier for me to explain how we got it, so. But anyways, and as far as sending out the letter, who's going to send out the letter and remind him to do it? Well, you are?
No.
Oh, we'll be right. I thought maybe that you were going to know. Well, that's good.
No, I just want to touch on a couple of points. Yeah, absolutely. I will direct staff to keep reaching out, which I have directed staff to reach out. Both times when we sent out the agreement and we sent out the agreement with the adaption. But one of the things that I think worked well with the town of Rushford is that you called Paul. You called Paul to find out, and Paul walked you through it, and we got it done. One of the issues is when you reach out to your townships, to your district, and you're not calling Paul, or you're not having them call Paul, that's where some of the chaos ensues. You know, if you don't know what Paul's process was or what he wanted to do, then how could you have a conversation with a town chairman if you don't know what the process is that staff's working on? And operations is what we're working on. And we're not trying to be combative, and we're not trying to block anything. We want to get this done, and we want to make sure that everything's accounted for. When I asked Paul, how many people called you with questions on this, I think the answer was 2. You have 36 board supervisors. You know, and if there are questions, please feel free to reach out to Director Kaiser, any questions on that. And if your chairman had, please feel free to have them do the same. Paul is more than happy to talk to anybody to walk it through, whether it's the town of Nepiescum, or Nakaimai, or the city of Menasha, or the city of Neenah. Paul's there willing to take their calls. So I would,
Paul's number is?
Paul, you got your office?
920-232-3446. That'll be good for 24 hours.
County executive, I'd like to take all the credit for that, but I know that he also talked to our clerk an awful lot, and she did a lot of work on this, so it wasn't his name, so.
Yeah, I think that's the point. Paul's there, Paul's available, and he knows what he's doing.
Any other questions? I thank you for the update, Paul. Yes.
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
Do we have a clear direction to Mr. Cox's comments? Do we have a clear direction that something will be sent out in the near future directly to the appropriate person in each of the townships?
County executive, I won't say guaranteed me, but he said he would take care of his staff, will make sure it'll keep going out.
I will send out an email tomorrow to the contacts I have. Question's going to be, do I have the correct contacts, which I'll have to go and get all the townships.
If you don't, the clerk's got the right one for me, yes and no.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, I think I mixed 3 and 4 up. I just realized we're supposed to be talking about the amendment. We just covered 4 more so than we did 3.
Right. You're the one that jumped ahead.
That's my fault, yep.
So we'll go back to 3 then, unless there's any more on 4. Okay, we'll go back to 3 then, update discussion on Collins Municipalities Amendment. Say anything now?
The amendment doesn't change anything. County executive is in charge of operations, and we are gonna continue down the path that I think is working right now. I don't think anything's broken. I think we'll get everything done in the time that you want it to get done. But when we talked about roles and responsibilities, operations is clearly mine, no oversight. And I think we're doing a fine job, whether you agree or not. I think Paul is doing a decent job of making sure that this is understood. And I think when we start connecting the conversations between town chairs and the municipal leaders directly with Paul, I think things will solve themselves out. So I'm not going to veto the amendment, but I'm also not going to sign the amendment, so it'll just become what it is without my signature. Because what it is, I don't think changes the process at all. That's my thing.
Any questions on that? I'm thinking your head.
I just-
leave it.
I was just, yeah, do we want the door open for a reason?
Yes, because it's
Public meeting.
Oh, it does,
Can
okay.
you open the back one?
I might close it just a little bit, because it is a little.
But as long as it's propped open. Sure. Okay, I don't want to give you. This is a closed session.
Open the other one.
So any questions on the amendment? For those of you that don't know the amendment, there was one brought up at the county board meeting, go ahead and have the money paid out by September 1st, and then there was more things added in and taken out and whatsoever, and hard to say, but I have to agree somewhat. I don't think it really changed anything by it. And everything was taken out and added and all that, but I don't know what the other board members felt like. Felt like anything?
I would agree with your statement. After the resolution was amended, it pretty much coincides with what we already have. So I would agree with that.
Anyone else? Okay, and we'll move right on to number 5, discussion and possible action update on additional projects submitted in appropriate time frame. Do you have anything you want to say on that before anyone else starts out, or?
Well, this is the first time I saw this. And there was another, I guess, submission of this, and I don't think we ever voted that this was I think this was a discussion point or like a possible jumping off for an application. So some of the requests that came on these papers that weren't submitted to Spirit, I never got because it was outside the purview of what we were doing. So if there's more, I don't know where these, I mean, it sounds like some of them went to people individually maybe, or so if there are additional things. However, looking at this, it looks like it's maybe countywide, so that looks like it maybe would fit. We did not assess anything that we felt was county government, so maybe that's why this didn't. I just want everybody to understand what we were looking at.
This here again, when this was submitted, it was submitted by a person before he was on board, so there was that lapse. So now when he submitted, he probably didn't even know that was out there, so he just submitted for some of their own radios. Where this one here was submitted for the county radios.
Chief Harbison did tell me he submitted it, but I don't remember who it was on the phone, just fact finding ahead of the last meeting, and he said he didn't think anything was turned in. And I didn't want to miss the vote, I didn't want to speak for the other villages, so I turned our own in. Well, I think Nina did too. Kevin Cohen and I talked, and we're like, I don't know, I don't want to miss the vote on them. I didn't know about the Spirit Fund survey until 3 days before. That was new, so.
And I'm looking at the date of this letter, July 25th, 2022. I can't recall when I believe Marianne Dilling was still on this commission. When did you get appointed?
September.
You got appointed in September of 2022?
Yeah.
I believe so.
You never made a meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct. Well, and Beth wasn't part of the commission when this came in. I think that's something like that.
Yeah.
Keep talking of this date on this.
Yeah, so I think this was and correct me if I'm wrong, but this was the original request that came in from
Yes.
from the Fire Association, Fire
Yes.
Chiefs Association, that covered everyone that wasn't covered. And I also, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe City of Oshkosh is in here because they were taken care of, right?
Correct. They got, well, I don't know how, but they had theirs, yeah.
Right, and I think there were other municipalities that may have not been a part of this.
Could have been, I don't know.
Can we get a list of those?
Yeah, we can get a list of those, because I think we have duplicate ask as well, that came in for some of the same radios.
But even if some of them, I'm just wondering, in the city of Oshkosh, that they've got theirs already. We don't have to give them money for radios. We can go ahead and grant them money for a different program that they want. They'll just have to hand them a blank check and say, here, you bought your radios, but here's a blank check for you.
Are you saying I'll?
Well, just saying, whatever they would have got, we could just go ahead and we could give them something that they're asking for a different program rather than money for radios.
Yeah, you got dispatch, software programs. Will this be, will this be included, in these documents going forward?
I'm sure we can get it added.
Okay.
What I think we should propose as a commission is look at the radios in entirety and figure out, what we want to send to the full board. Is it 100%? Is it 50%? What is it? Is it anything? Is the question. Clearly I understand the radio, issue.
Which is prompted by the county changing their rates, yeah.
Right, correct, yep,
Yeah.
and 10 years ago, I think that's why we paid for them all.
Yeah.
And then 10 years ago, we also said to make sure you budget for it.
Yeah.
And I think I have a little bit more empathy, for a town budget because the radio is a much larger chunk
Yes.
of their annual budget.
Yeah.
And maybe a little, and I don't know if empathy is even the right word for it, but maybe a little bit less for municipalities that have that tax income and have a little bit larger budget. And I would say in a town of Rushford, for example, I mean, how much would that radio ask be a portion of your budget?
Well, see, we're dividing ours in three.
Right.
So that makes a difference.
Rushford, Utica.
So,
Or
Rushford, Town of Amarillo, and
Sheboygan.
City of Amarillo.
Oh, City Hall.
So that's gonna be radios in
Yeah.
three municipalities, so, right?
And then it's Utica and what's the town?
Ripon, I believe it is.
Some have,
No, she's raising her hand before.
towns that are tied together through.
Is it from, oh. And,
Sarah had a question.
well, she can't talk now, she's out, I'm sorry.
Whereas other mutual agreements, yes, whereas other towns are independent.
If she wants to answer our question, she can talk on that, because I asked a question on that. You know who Utica is in partnership with on, I don't think they're in partnership with anyone, are they?
That I know.
I think they just got their own, because they just got their
Utica
big
Fire
picnic
District
and
is
that's
their own.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Utica, Vinland, Winnebago's, two of them, Oregon and Winnebago.
And I would assume that the radio ask for Utica would be a good portion of their annual budget.
Definitely.
Right.
Same with Vinland, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Same with all of them. I mean, yeah. What about Boom Bay? They've got their own right there.
So I think the radio, I would want to bounce off of this commission. Should we look at that as one? And figure out how we want to look at that separately together instead of how many radio asks do we have? If you add this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different separate asks, and some of those are duplicated. Because I think,
In here, yes,
right,
yes.
Trying to do the association and the association.
That's what they were trying to do, is the global, the whole county asked, yep, before he left.
so,
I just don't understand. Nobody, they know they're 10-year radios. And whenever they were purchased, you normally do a 10-year accrual, knowing that 10 years from now you have to spend $1.9 million. It's financially irresponsible to 10 years later say, where am I gonna get $1.9 million? If this spirit fund wouldn't have occurred, well, where would the funding come from?
And I will agree with you, but I'm just gonna throw one back at you. We also brought police county radios, and theirs were 10 years, and they should have been saving for them or something. And they didn't
I think we
even,
are.
they didn't even go in the budget or anything.
And then for to ask you back a question or so ago, I would like to know what percentage of our $34 million we're spending on radios. It's gonna be a third of our money,
agreed.
maybe more or less.
For,
That seems silly to me.
if I may,
Yes.
the radios for the county were originally in our CIP plan. So that was going to be, and the reason that we were okay with that is because we're going to have to bond for that 10.4 million, which would add tax liability to all our citizens over the next X amount of years. So we're gonna pay for that one way or the other. Question is, are we gonna pay for that and put that interest on our taxpayers, or as a county, as an organization, were we gonna pay for those radios just straight up and not bond for it? And I believe that is why we're looking to only bond 8 some million this year instead of our normal 10. So it was more about the tax liability and the debt payments than it was about the radios.
The focus is to keep the debt levy at a levy amount, a standard amount instead of going up and down.
We have roll off and replacement and standard amortization and not different interest rates and payments, so that's Paul's job, to balance all that, so.
John is here on these radios. You also had in here before, he had dispatch software also. For the whole county.
So I guess is a question for me of what I can get staff to do to reach out. Would this commission like us to do a report on the entire radio ask? What are the things that you would like to see in the percentage of their budget? I'm open to metrics. What are things that you would like to see? So we could paint the entire radio picture for this commission.
Combining all of the fire departments as one would help you get a global, say, a global connection. interconnection between all of the fire departments.
Including police, because there are some police aspects as well.
There are police, small groups. Police would be involved with that as well.
And how should we break that down between townships, municipalities?
I'm of the opinion that, those municipalities that have already purchased the radios are actually not, shouldn't be part of the ask, because we're looking to supply radios to municipalities that haven't been able to afford them. So that would be my focus.
Would Supervisor Ferry was very adamant about the $145 being split up equally between the townships. Great.
Yes, and I expect that.
Yeah.
I really do.
But, and I appreciate that, but that is a defined relationship of population to an area. I don't know if fire departments and police departments are a whole different ball of wax as far as how they're separated out. So it may be, to your point, more county-wide. But if a certain municipality or district has already paid for this, should there be a stipend back to them as an offset? Because they were just being proactive instead of reactive. So I just throw it out there that I would be open to monies in lieu of buying radios and that if someone was on top of their game instead of behind their game. So, go ahead.
I might respond. I would generally agree with it, but my assumption is that municipalities use their ARPA funds to buy the radios. So the question becomes, are you reimbursing their ARPA funds that they spent on radios? And whether or not we should be getting into that.
And allocation authority comes from the board, spending authority comes from the exec's office. And whether that was appropriate or not, that would not be something I would say. Not to be mean, not to punish. I just think that that's $33 million seems like a lot of money, but it's in the grand scheme of things is not. And we have a lot of resiliency to look at with this. But further clarification, instead of townships, should we break this into fire districts instead? Would that be?
I think fire districts, like I said, our fire area, Emerald, Rushford, the city of Emerald, you know, we'll still need radios, but we might not need as many as like, say, one big one that's all there is, because we'll have 3 districts there that are all in one.
Okay.
So,
Am I allowed to ask a?
sure.
All right, does that seem like a better way to take a look at this?
You mean county districts?
Fire districts within the county.
You could, sure. But back to what Tim has said then, do we go ahead and just, so are you going, we'll just say if you decide to buy these, are we just gonna buy enough radios for what they want in that area? And say Utica only needs 50, is that all you're going to buy them?
Depending, a clarification on this, was this all the fire radios within the entire county or
That's my belief, yeah.
Yes.
including Oshkosh or not?
That's my belief, yes.
Okay, that's your belief.
But I haven't seen that until now, till today either, so.
Okay.
Chief Harbison said he turned it in, but I didn't see it until today.
Beth,
Does that include, well, this may go back to you, what about Black Wolf and that area who our fire district is in Fond du Lac County? So it's Van Dyne, so is Black Wolf in our area not getting anything because it's not outside the county that holds the radios? I mean, I don't know if Van Dyne needs radios.
Yeah.
We talked about trucks and a lot of the equipment, but they haven't talked about radios yet in the town meetings.
So these boundaries don't necessarily align with our county borders.
Yeah,
Whereas the sheriff's radios did.
very often you have like Grand Chute, which is not in county. And Nina and Fox Crossing, all combining an agreement that they would come in case of a given fire in an area. That mutual agreement has to promote interconnectivity with regard to the radios that they have in their hands, okay? Somebody uses a Motorola, and somebody else has a, whatever, and they don't connect, then you got a little bit of a problem, and that's why you should be really involved in with the interconnectivity and the mutual agreements. To know just how much and where we're going with this.
Yeah, we run automatically with most of them, Grand Chute, all of them.
We're talking about things like Fond du Lac and Black Wolf and whatever, those agreements. And if you will that down to where the agreements are, and can you use a flat, brand of radio in all areas, that simplifies a lot of things when you go out to buy.
Most mutual agreements, that goes with everybody all over. It don't matter. If there's a big barn fire or whatever, you might get called out to Black Wolf, we might, or anyway, so.
Yeah.
So you can't just go by the mutual agreement unless you go with the whole county.
And they can all talk to each other on the radio, right?
Even if they have Kenwood.
Well, which is still an issue with that Fond du Lac border because they don't have the same system we do. We still have to use the UHF to contact some of them, correct?
Correct. Then we meant to, yeah.
And if I may, as a reminder, there are no requests that we have to fund 100%. If we look at this, we say 25% is good or 50% is good. Anything I think they appreciate is better than nothing. So it's not an all or nothing. This commission gets to decide what it recommends to the county board, and the county board can do whatever they want with it at the same time. If they want to up it up, they can go up. If they want to knock it down, they can knock it down. If they want to say no, they can say no. So.
I'd like to discuss that after we get done with radios.
Okay.
Because my point would be is, do you partially fund somebody or fully fund their ass so they can do what they want to do? But let's get done with radios and then it's all right, and I'd like to ask that to find out where this commission is.
Sure. Well, we'll just say the specific to radios.
Could you take a different bid from a different provider, which we didn't get a chance to do last time? Or will that not work, or is that a bad idea?
I don't know why I couldn't. It should have been done last time. Just put it that way.
Agreed. Can we do it this time?
I don't know, because these wouldn't be our radios and wouldn't be our bid. Correct?
Right.
Am I wrong there?
But if we're supplying them,
To see it?
right.
You're just buying funds.
I just,
That's not
We
your-
have these
that's
radios,
not your- right.
we'll furnishing these, but this is what they have. If you want them,
right.
And you have to bid it all.
Right.
So I have a question about radios. Are there differences in the number of radios urban to rural? Because it may be easier to connect the people that you need to connect with if you're in an urban area than if you're in a rural area. I don't know this.
I would say that, if the radios would all be the same, as far as that goes, because you should still be able to contact, if they go ahead and get this software program, like they say, you should still be able to go ahead and talk to the police department even on it. So that's what they do now.
That's because Pace accepts the software, and the software is Motorola, and Motorola is everything that the police department has. If you get into cross generation, whatever.
Maybe, but this is also putting in for priority dispatch software.
Menasha has Silicon and they have both of them in the.
There's a lot of discussion about that between Motorola and that, and some say one is just as good as the other, so.
Do you know what the software would be? Is the software all held within our dispatch center, or is that incorrect?
Great, but I think what this dispatch was, and here again, I would have to go back and talk to him, or maybe you could, is because this dispatch is wearing out with his radios. I have no idea what it was. But I know he put that in there for a reason.
I see Captain Vanola is on. Can we ask a question?
As far as it's pertaining to that, yes.
Laura, yep.
Hi, yeah, I was trying to find my button here. So I think you are looking at, thing that Fox Crossing Fire did over a year ago with the Fire Chiefs Association logo on the top of it. Is that what you're looking at? Can't see the document that you have.
Yes.
Okay, so I don't have that in front of me, but I believe I remember it. And the priority dispatch software is completely separate. It's a completely different ask. And it's something that our comm center is not interested in purchasing. It's just a completely separate ask than what he was looking at. I think he asked for radios and then software. And then I think he was asking for like station alerting or something in that package as well. And I believe that Fox Crossing actually already purchased that. So again, I'm just going from memory from a year ago, and I might be mistaken because I don't have that document in front of me.
Thank you.
So also in that report, maybe hardware versus software breakdown?
Who is going to contact these, just so I may ask?
I'll make sure we take care of it. We'll probably be reaching out to figure out some of those numbers and break down some questions. Yep, okay.
Happen 10 years from now.
We won't be
Well,
here. There's no guarantee this will happen.
Oh, we may still be here then.
Yeah, we might have our commission.
Is there anything else, Beth, that you wanted to bring up as far as that you've heard has been missed, or anyone else heard that's been missed? Exactly.
I received a couple of these last minute, so I did include them in the community, in the city village town request. There was one for radios, but it looked, the numbers were just a tiny bit off for Menasha. Emergency communication, I think that is the one.
These are new ones on your desk.
It feels like it was a duplication of what was submitted, so it was,
Do you have a number? Application number?
57. So on that first page of the city village town request. So that's what came in from the fire department proper, but then I guess something like this was sent maybe in February or something to a couple individual supervisors. And it was from another supervisor about radio, so that didn't come to me. But that one I did not include in here because I believe it's the exact same request that Nina Menasha Fire asked, which is 57. So if for some reason there would be a second ask, but I don't.
Executive Damon.
Yeah, there were 4 requests from Supervisor Dowling, that were sent to every board supervisor on this commission, but was never sent to me.
For me.
Right, so we never had those, and then we found those requests, we were able to add them, so. On that, on those 4 requests that the Spirit Fund does now have, the Spirit email now has, we'll make sure that they get included. But just, if any other emails may have come to you that you would assume were forwarded to me, please forward them to me, because I may or may not have them.
The research done on that. The research done on that, Mary Ann, had alerted all of us that
Right.
The supervisors.
Correct.
Whether or not we had something. She talked to me directly and we didn't. this, what I have in my hand is what was produced after the fact. And after that call came, that Ms. Dowling wanted her to take a look at. So this is a new one that she did, and I don't know what she.
I'm not gonna get into that, but I know Supervisor Cox, her name was on that. All of ours, plus so was Supervisor Buck, right? On the email that was sent out
Email?
before.
Right. Email that Dowling sent out?
Yes.
Yes, and that's what I have here.
This would have been from before when the question was if it ever got to them.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I might respond to your, I have a little bit of a concern.
Mm-hmm.
If we look at our documents, we got community requests, city, village, town requests. Are we now gonna open this up to individual supervisors' requests? Because the issue, and I appreciate Supervisor Dowling's request, her interest and all that stuff, but shouldn't she be going to the municipality and have them submit the request?
And
That's my concern here. We gotta be a little careful with the process.
If I may, I am simply trying to comply, and I know there's been conversation of should I even be on this commission? My role in this commission is not to direct, not to try to sway, it's just to be collaborative, so when we have these conversations that we understand, if it makes it all the way through the board, if there's a will of the exec's office to actually execute the spending of it. And so for me, I was never trying to, I can't acknowledge something I don't have, which is why we dug into it to make sure we find it. We're not trying to.
But how do you address my questions? For instance, she wanted a sidewalk. The municipality, the sidewalks within a municipality. Is the municipality requesting the sidewalks? Perhaps they have it in a plan to put them in at a later time, or they don't want sidewalks. I mean, these are things I don't know.
Right.
Well, and that some of the information is kind of incomplete because of that, you know, the recycling truck. Is that a personal initiative, or is that something that the municipality has asked for? And that was the.
Which is very important, because
So
they gotta maintain it.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. And that would have been one of the questions, even on some of the other things that were requested that had well, the Parks Department's gonna take care of it, but does the Parks Department okay with that? So
Yeah.
I have those things noted, but those other, I think there were 5 sidewalk, police radios, fencing, and glass, recycling truck, and then maybe radios. So I added them in the stuff that you have today, but also with a question mark that.
Right. I think so. I'll have to study that though, but explain it if you would.
Okay,
Was it?
I went through our budget book. Fox Crossing. We each, pull them down, take a look. This one is 2021, 2022. We have grants, and we have in parentheses ARPA. Okay, and then how it's spent and what. So I went through and found a variety of different things that could be sidewalks, could be storm sewer, could be whatever. The problem with Dowling ask, okay, is that it hasn't been vetted through the town or the village or whatever, the city. And then again, it may be. But if they don't have the documentation and backup and whatever, you don't know how many miles of sidewalk is she talking about, or how many, whatever. So I just stopped real short of wanting to give her all the credit in the world, to start up these.
Yes.
Right.
And really, to my mind, I think we need to take a look at these individual asks and say, hey, have you checked back into the village, the town, the the municipality.
And that's why we're trying to push people to do the online survey, because one of the questions is the name, the organization that is requesting funding. So then that one is categorized. That's Rachel Dowling, Supervisor, District 1. So it differentiates that this didn't come from the municipality. It came from an individual or supervisor.
Yeah.
And I know some of them had like letters of recommendation, and that's
That's all
fine, but I just want to be able to differentiate that. Me as a citizen, I don't know if this has been vetted or if it's, like, can we even do sidewalks? Is it a state highway? Does the state have to get involved? Like all those things. So in the main big giant document that has everything, that's why that category has been left in there. So at least you know who was making the request to kind of, not legitimize, but kind of, okay, well, it's the municipality, so this is what they want.
Get it in the right lane to start with. and
yeah.
Make sure it come all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
County Executive Damo.
Yeah, I mean, the sidewalk itself, safer access makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think it's a smart project. But again, the question comes in, since it's a state road, does the state know that? You know, is the state okay with that? Is the state have plans to rip this thing up in 10 years?
Put a storm.
Or 5 years, right.
Right.
And currently in this location, there's a big ditch. Now, you could put the sidewalk on the other side of the road. I believe there is sewer over there. But to turn a ditch into a sidewalk, is gonna cost a lot more than 1.5. And at first blush, when I talked to Commissioner Damel, he said it would be more like 15 million. But there has to be right of ways given by the state. And if we're gonna redo something in the state, the last thing I want to do is to have the state then turn that property over to us to maintain indefinitely. So it's a great idea. I think it's focused on safety. I think it's focused on resiliency. But we just have to make sure that it's vetted through everybody on the land, that it makes sense, that it's actually gonna be this cost. So there are more questions I think that we have in certain situations like that. I mean, same thing for Leonard Point. I think that roundabout makes a lot of sense, but is that our duty to do that? Is that state land? Are we covering state costs for this? Most of the infrastructure money is being funneled through the state. They have plenty as well. So would we turn around and spend some of our dollars on things that they have funds for? What are their plans? So I think for any infrastructure stuff like that, I think we should have, would you want Commissioner Damel here or some? Then that be the question, or somebody from the DOT?
I would say the DOT, number one. I would think they would have to answer some of it. I mean, I know that, you got state representative, Pengrass. He's going along with it and
Yep.
and all that, so that's not the DOT, so.
Right.
You guys are out there. You're not supervisor.
Commissioner.
Commissioner.
Someday maybe.
Tom.
My difficulty is, these are all good projects, people believe in them, nobody's asking for money to build a Taj Mahal. How do I prioritize comparatively the need and affordability for a Fox Crossing request? But I think you have a pretty nice budget and very good detail and good finance people versus the town of Nakaimai needs something and they don't have any money, so comparatively that deserves more ARPA funding than a well-heeled district deserves. And there's no way to get 30 plus financial statements for me to know comparatively who has the biggest need. And, you know, why would I do a road or a roundabout and put a sign on it that said courtesy, you know, thanks to ARPA funding? That's kind of why I thought this committee was about. We're doing legacy funds, we're doing something, we're thanking the government for giving us that money. You know, not just we're doing a new elevator or a sidewalk or even radios are fine, but that's not what I thought this was all about. So that's just my philosophically. I don't know how anybody can pick of these 57 requests and say this one's better and this one doesn't give any money. Because if I take $1 million and give it to them, that's $1 million that nobody else has got.
examine what they've already got on their schedule, their CIP. And you ask what you want to pull out of there to make a proper request. I guess, rather than having individuals come up and say, well, we need a sidewalk. We need the grocery store for so long, now we need a sidewalk over here on this side of the street. Those kind of things have been probably looked at by the city or by the town or by the village at some point in time. And said they set a certain priority in how they make up these lists and what they've got to spend.
But not consistently across all the townships and
No,
you do probably. So, thank you.
you end up, you're gonna end up going back through our own CIP plans and going back through various desires for various departments like the police and the fire department, whatever. As long as they meet the criteria.
And I see now that we have a scope of all the different needs, I could see us now. Here's the 8 different things that we said we fund. Now we have to prioritize those.
Right.
And we made a general survey. Now in hindsight, now I wish I would have put in there, if you were city, town, municipality, was this part of your CIP plan? We did have a debt reduction kind of piece, but I think I could have been more clear. So maybe it's even, okay, here of the projects you submitted, now here are the questions, what's in the CIP plan that would do a tax reduction, and lets us determine the tax reduction or whatever the terminology is, the highest priority. Is it community safety? Is it, because there are things in here that are great, but are, if, you know, upkeep to a park or something is wonderful, but so we're not gonna fund police radios to make a basketball court. So I think we can, now that we have a scope of this, kind of pull out, okay, these are high priorities. And even with the community requests too, that's why there's so many different colors, because we categorized them, but nobody checked all those boxes. So now, if we want to do it this way, this is what we would fund. If we do it that way, that's what, I mean, there's 27 ways to, I hate to say skin a cat, but you know, we can look at it multiple different ways. We just have to figure out what our priorities are and how we want to spend the money.
Yes. My opinion, when I look at this, I see a lot of good projects, and I see some of them kind of align with the county mission, and some of them maybe that don't. To break down Amro, look at Amro. When I look at Amro, I look at the dog park. It makes sense because we have a dog park in Oshkosh. We had to put a dog park in Nita, and for a dog park to exist in Amro, it feels like we are helping that part of the county to also have dog park. I think that aligns with something that counties do. When I think of the community ask, or the county identified project of the Amro Community Center, that is a space that we used to have where we could do county programs in. And we don't have that space anymore for our veteran services to come in, for some of the other wellness things that we have to come in for, some of our programs that we operate. I think that makes sense because it helps us accomplish our county mission, for making our county better. Some of these, I mean, we're responsible for the health and well-being of our citizens. So, you know, on that aspect, sure, a sidewalk could be a valued thing for us to do that, especially if we have data saying that it's not safe and that people are getting hit there. We probably have to do something. So I think when we look at this, we have to really see how it ties to our county mission. And again, to the radios, that's how do we keep our people safe out there, because every minute matters. But there's some things again on that's out of our control. So I think when we look at these lists, we break them down, and we kind of think how it how is it a legacy? How does it promote safety? And how does it fit our county mission?
Versus core services that the county is expected to provide for my tax.
Right.
And all of those should be paid for by my tax levy.
Right.
Not pieced out and paid for by these one-time funds. These are never gonna happen again.
Anything else on this?
Sound emotional there.
I don't know if it's part of this, but I just, I need to say it, call me a bleeding heart liberal.
All right.
But I believe that so many of these projects, like the pain for the 20% of the population was boats, to launch their boats. And I understand it's a cheaper way to do things in the long term, but that's not our population. It's a great group of people and their triggers community, but I think we should be going for moonshots. The things that just won't get done unless you take these one-time funds. We've already paid for all the services. That's the whole thing about this Spirit Fund. We got the money and none of us went bankrupt for 2.5 years during COVID. The counties, the municipalities, everyone survived. I paid my tax. Did you pay your taxes?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we all paid our taxes. We got the money that we expected, that we had budgeted. It's all there. So we get this gift. How do we use our gift? I think it should be for moonshots and not for roundabouts and sidewalks and pickleball. I love pickleball, but I can do that myself or pay for that court. Anyway.
Is it Tom, I believe?
Yeah.
You have some very valid points. But the question becomes, how do you identify a moonshot using your term?
Exactly.
Give me an example.
That's what Beth was saying. I mean, what is it that, how do we categorize? And Tom said the same thing. How do we differentiate between these things? But I lean more towards the ones that help the greatest number of people. The people who are most in need, the people who do have a tough time paying their taxes, the communities that can't put in a water system because there just isn't enough money there, or needs to do the shoreline repair, or needs to. That's where I lean towards, instead of things that the DOT should be doing, the city should be doing, and the county should be doing, because it's good for the whole population.
I'm quite sympathetic to that. I'm just not sure how to identify.
Executive demo.
A couple things. Number one, I can tell you moonshot, we already passed one. This commission did it. It's $3 million for land and water conservation.
Oh, yeah.
That is going to help affect the water quality of Winnebago County for probably a century, if not more. With some of these things that if we get these farmers to no-till, and that is the gift that keeps on giving.
Well said.
That is a moonshot that this commission already did and the county board already approved. And another opportunity we have here, there's over $10 million of housing asked, of permanent housing. And what I have written down here in my notes, roughly 1.8 temporary housing or transitional housing. But one of the things that I kind of talked about the last meeting is how do we, instead of looking at these, do we do something separate? And I actually asked our housing commission, or our housing coordinator, Lou Shear is in the room today. She is who we hired through the neighborhood improvement grant to take a look at the housing issues throughout the county. And she's been very busy reaching out to all municipalities and townships and going across the state. She's talked to the Sheboygan people. She's talked to the Washington County people. She's looked at what all these people are doing about, instead of looking at these $10 million in requests, Tim, to your point, maybe the moonshot is we use that to set up a revolving loan fund, get some businesses to chip in on it. And we put maybe 6 million, and we asked the business community to match that, and I had put a $12 million revolving loan fund in our IDB to actually jumpstart housing. Because Alua, you look at all the models and it's tough. And that's something, Tim, to your point, these people, what does affordable housing even mean these days? That is no longer what you think it is. We're talking, two spouses that are working full-time jobs can't afford a house right now. That's the situation we're in. So what does that look like? And so that would be another moonshot, I believe we could take a look at, but I agree with your sentiment there.
I'm just wondering if it would be helpful to go through, like, just pause this conversation to go through some of the projects and some ideas that we had for categorizing them on ideas. I don't know if that, just to see the scope of things.
I have no problem with it. I don't know about the rest of you. I think it's time we gotta do something.
Yep.
Yeah, I do too, yeah. We gotta keep moving. Totally agree.
Forward.
It might not be exactly what's on the agenda, but we could put it on each year report getting ready for September 5th.
Yeah.
We could kind of go around it that way.
Sure. So, well, that's it. Tried to figure out the easiest way to describe to people who may never have come to any of these meetings what we've been doing. So here, this is my suggestion. You tell me if you think it makes sense or not, or how to position basically my presentation part. So I thought basically I would go and show the planning document and bring that up and show that county government projects, show the definition that is countywide, driven by the executive's office. There's $16.6 million. Of that, 20% has been approved. So there's still $13 million left in this countywide, but that is countywide project. Then the other is government identified projects. So this is what felt that the citizen review and the survey was what we were looking to help spend the money from. So this would be just what it says, government identified projects. Again, 16.6 million. So out of this, there's 42% has been spent. So there's only 9,600,000 in this bucket total left.
What was that?
9,694,700. And so this is from the county website. So if that has changed, but it kind of looks like everything it looks like it's the most updated. So then the citizen review group took that survey. I don't know if you think it would be useful to show the survey, but basically pretty much all the questions were on here.
I think we might want to show that somehow or another, so they know what questions we're actually.
Sure.
asking.
Yeah, in other words, they identified the question.
And to put that on the screen or?
I thought in the way I would do it is a PowerPoint to show on the
Sure,
screen. I mean, capability wise, I don't know what I can and can't do.
PowerPoint, I can, as long as you send it to me, I can make sure I can test it.
Okay.
I believe you're on the special orders meeting in September, right?
Yeah,
First thing.
Okay.
thank you.
Thing is, are you able to see it and read it on the screen?
If it's a PowerPoint, yeah, we'll be able to do it just like we have the PowerPoint.
And however, emailed or printed, I mean, it can all be printed as well. This is all stuff that's on the county website already. But at least to be able to, this is what I'm referencing, and if you have it in your packets, then you can, oh, that's what that means, and see what it is. So first I'd show, here are the two differentiation of projects. This is the one that we are looking to try to spend. because there's only 9 million in there. Show the survey, here are the questions that we asked, here's how we collected the data. Show that methodology, if you remember last time I showed, we took the surveys, we scored them on this framework document. And then show that framework document, which is also on the county website where these are found. That gave the criteria that they have legacy, that it was one-time funding, that there's water quality, that there's, whatever was all in there. Yeah.
John, we need two or three screens in that room in order to accommodate what she's trying to do. So many of these questions are gonna have small print, maybe somebody up front can see.
Out of the boardroom?
In the courtroom, in the courtroom. Somebody in the back of the room takes a look across there, you're not gonna see it, you're gonna have to have handouts.
Cassie, can we handle handouts?
Yes, I can definitely do the handouts. I know in the county board packets that we just mailed out, the 3 documents you have in front of you today are in that county board packet, so.
So their question, the county boardroom, the AV capabilities, I think that one screen is all we got, right?
But you'll have in your packet everything that I'm referring to.
Is there something you need to refer to it in the packet or have them have it in,
Yeah.
in the room?
Mhm.
Because people reading that screen is not gonna do it.
Oh, I understand.
90% of the people there.
They're not gonna read this on the screen.
I
Yeah.
know,
Is there any way that we can use that one that's on the side that the judge uses?
I'll have to check. I don't know. I don't know if we've got the capability.
And are people who, if they bring a personal laptop, can they access
Chip,
that
we're
PowerPoint?
using the iPads to do our voting.
I think he's talking about general public.
No, the general public, can they bring in?
Sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, we could add it to the website once we have the.
Have a link on there and.
being able to, I was getting at being able to read or do something with the iPad as the iPad is connected to the board for voting. You can't switch in and out, hot switch in and out with that.
I think what Mr. Kellery was talking about though, like say if you were back in the far back as a public person, if you had your computer along, you could go onto that and bring up the Zoom and then hit the link and come to it there.
Just get to the PowerPoint.
May I ask Supervisor Hanson his ability to read that screen? Because he's kind of far back in the,
Yeah, really.
how legible is the screen for
I
you?
don't see it at all.
Okay.
It should be, in my opinion, it should be able to be broadcast to the iPads as well.
But definitely a handout would be easier to.
Yes.
Okay. Cassie, you got notes on that?
I do.
All right.
So everybody will have the paper, but what I was intending on, this is the page you should be looking at. And it's okay if we do A, B, C in your packet or letter it or
Well, the packet's already gone out, so assuming you can get me the information, we can put it on their desk then.
Okay.
Meeting. I just need to know the order that you're going to go through so I can.
Mhm. Okay, I'm taking notes on the order that I'm. Well. So. Okay. Then show just that methodology that it simply was receive the applications, put it all into a spreadsheet, and this is the criteria that we used. Just at face value of what the information was shared with us, which created this document, which is the 78, 79, 80-ish projects that came to us. So then the new documents that you have in front of you, I broke them down between community requests and city, village, town requests. So now you don't have in your packet. There are some requests that did not make this community request because it didn't feel like based on face value, they fit any of the criteria. However, if the criteria is determined that it's a housing ask or a UDA recovery ask, some of these could still be, which is why they are kept on this main document with everything, because this is just a theory on how we could categorize.
Which is our old one.
Yeah.
Hearing you, solid justification on why they didn't make the.
Yes, and I have notes on, this is what our discussion was about on why we felt it didn't fit the criteria. Yep. So for the community request, that first page for blue, those are the projects and the organizations that fit at least one of the 4 criteria of a lasting, of course, I don't have that one in front of me. Oh yeah, I do. Of the legacy project, it had one-time funding ask, was within the geographical service area, and had other funding already. It wouldn't be solely funded. So if the determination would be to only fund the things that fit those 4 criteria, again, not all of them, but at least 1 or 2 of those criteria, that would be a $5 million fund. Now, we also didn't look at, okay, they asked for 750,000. We don't think that's reasonable. That's not we didn't go into any of that. We just said they asked for 750. This is how much it would total up. The next purple, because I know the timeline is duly approaching. So purple were the ones that fit the criteria, but we're quick to implement. So in the next 18 months or so, those projects could be done or just about completed. That brings it down to 3.6 million. Now, from the 5. So of this 5, I even shorted up because some of these 5 are like, hey, we're researching this. This might be a cool idea. Well, a cool idea isn't going to happen in 18 months. So if it's where are you really? So that's why I pulled that out. So then on the second page underneath the purple is the yellow, additional information needed to determine if there was a fit. Based on what they said the scope of the project was, we weren't exactly sure if they were asking for programming money or if they were, we had questions on what the ask specifically was. So there could be an additional 2.5 million that might fit into the blue or the purple bucket. Then, based on the way the planning document was written with government identified projects, there is a piece in there that talked about organizations that have a county function or are funded by the county or have a contract with the county for services. So that's that light yellow, organizations that have a county function, if that's not the right terminology, but again.
Existing county function.
Yes. So there are some of these, we'll just say application 13, child care research and referral. They were asking strictly for programmatic. That did not fit in those 4 buckets that we categorized on top. However, Winnebago County, they get funding from Winnebago County to certify child care providers. So it has a county function. So these are, no matter how we scored it, these are projects that have county function. Family services is another one on the next page, because they were looking for programming. It didn't fit, however, it's partially funded through Winnebago County Human Services. So if the determination would be, we are just gonna fund community projects that have a county function or that work directly with the county, that would be 2.1 million and some change. So I tried, so here's the challenge and why we need to prioritize, is the priority that it's gonna be just a building, it's gonna be a one-time thing, it's not gonna be programmatic. And that's blue or purple, or do we want to only or prioritize the organizations that are already working with the county that really serve as a county function? So we did not make that determination. That's what I think the commission needs to decide. And then, like I said, Kathy, can you go to my last minute? Thank you. So sorry, you can't read these probably very well. There were 3 community asks by just community individuals, not supervisors, making recommendations. So we made sure that the supervisor executive office knew about those. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them that didn't fit in the 4 criteria, also did not have a county function. 1, 2 of them are for housing. 1 is pillars, that work with, no, you don't have this one.
Gonna say, I'm looking.
No, you don't. This is, I'm trying to, and then new projects are thrown in, and so, right. I'm trying to get this done quickly, but then I didn't realize that this already went out to you guys, so of the red, those are the projects. So 1 is the Boys and Girls Club. They submitted 2 requests. We said yes to 1 of the requests fit within the parameter, but the second one felt more like programming. And it kind of felt like a duplication of a request. There's 1 from a developer for the Sawdust Lofts, which is a main street. So, but it would increase the housing stock in a vacant building that's sitting in Main Street of Oshkosh. Another one is Community Clothes Closet, and that was really just to purchase a whole bunch of new clothes so they can serve more people, more individuals, and do more with their traveling closet, which goes throughout the county. But we felt that was like a short-term immediate, and that didn't have that legacy. There was no county function, so we put that in red. There's the mooring programs, which is Apricity, which is an alcohol and other drug rehab type of center, and they were looking for programming and maintenance and facility updates. And then Pillars, they were looking for maintenance, facility, and maintenance. But again, so those were out of what we felt fit. But again, the county may decide that drug abuse or drug addiction, or any kind of addiction is a priority. So we want to move that into there, or housing, and we want to move that. So those are the community requests. And then for city, village, town, I just separated those by each city, village, municipality, town of the requests that came in. So Menasha had 5.9 million, so that's on this next one, 5.9 million of requests. Fox Crossing.
You're adding radios into that, right?
Of the Menasha? Yeah, and I did list the project type so you could see. So there is police radios for squad cars, the Menasha. Then there was a Fox Crossing request for radios, 260,000. I made a Nina Menasha request. section because emergency service training and radios came in as a Nina Menasha request, so they came in together.
Clarification, and that is a emergency service training center. It's somewhere where they do live fire exercises that the entire
Mhm.
county uses.
And which is also why I have the application, so you can cross-reference, and this is like the, full document of all the information. So in those city, town, villages, if you want to see the details, because even that one, we weren't exactly sure if they were looking for funding for the building or for training or what exactly. So the rest of the details are in here. Then under Nina, I highlighted future Nina because that's a nonprofit, but it serves the city. And they were looking for park improvements, and it felt like they had to get the Parks Department involved, so I kept that under the city, village, town, but I highlighted it to make sure you knew where it came from. Then Amro's request. And that goes on to the next page. Look at Moran. I even had it printed so the thing stays on top. Aren't you happy with that? I get it. It gets confusing. Then City of Oshkosh. Again, there's the highlighted for Housing Authority because Housing Authority, I don't quite get exactly the
Quasi-governmental.
right, the tax status of Housing Authority. Town of Algoma, that is that 2-lane roundabout section, just a section of it, that the town of Algoma had agreed to assume the responsibility for that. Winnebago is under that. I also have the stage, so you can see, are these just ideas? Are they in the middle of researching it? Are they ready to implement? Because that can be another way to prioritize these. So then on the third page, town of Winnebago had 3.1 million in ask. And then I made another at the bottom, the quasi Winnebago County, because I didn't know where these fell in. Menasha, it was for Winnebago County Economic Development Specialist, so I wasn't sure if that was a county position that was out in Menasha, and I didn't know if that went under Menasha or the county.
I think what they're asking is the county hires an economic development person.
Okay,
Because we don't,
as in general.
right, because
Okay.
we don't have one.
Okay. The Poigan Fire District, they had said that the boats are owned by the county, but they run one of them. So again, I wasn't sure if that should go under Winnebago County Poigan or if that's a county responsibility.
That's, I'm well aware of that.
Okay.
The sheriff's working with the fire chief, and the sheriff department actually replaces these poles. I believe there's 3 of them.
Okay, that's why I pulled it out, because it didn't feel like it should be the responsibility of, yeah. And then Menasha has some county housing authority office to move, so I didn't want to assume that that was all the responsibility of those cities or towns. That's why I pulled them out and called them quasi Winnebago County. So then at the bottom, you see the request, the breakdown of amounts, dollars amounts that were requested per city, town, and then the total. So the total request from all the city, town, villages is almost 18.5 million.
And we have
9,
Total.
because of the way that 25% was put in solely to the county government and not into county identified. Had that 8 million or 9 million gone into county identified, probably a lot more of these could be funded, but because it was put in the wrong bucket. Well, I say wrong, in the solely under the county purview bucket. There's the challenge.
But Beth, you had all the amount requested to get to the 18 million?
Yes.
And some of those projects are just planned right now or thought about and.
Yeah,
it's
so,
okay, so
yep, in the process of implementing, exploring. And then at the bottom, I put kind of, I included the total cost so you could see, here are the ones that are asking, we want full funding from ARPA. Here are the ones that we just need a portion.
That's very nice.
So here's all the information, but how do we prioritize? Or is there, now, some of the projects that there were questions on, I did not go back to ask because I didn't want people to put a whole lot of time and money into answering a question if there was no way it's gonna be funded. So I just didn't want to put that on all the organizations and municipalities to send over a whole bunch of other information and do busy work that wasn't gonna be needed.
Glad you worked here.
Thank you. Now she's made her presentation to the board. And I think it's an excellent presentation. A lot of questions to be answered yet.
Mhm.
We in that board gonna get into answering all those questions. So what's going on? If so, I don't think we can leave her hanging dry. I think somebody's gonna have to correct it so we don't start micromanaging everything that's going on. Because from what I hear now, it comes back to committee.
Mhm.
And then it goes to them for the approval. And you're gonna have your specific supervisor to have their pet products. They're gonna say, well, why isn't mine in here?
The point of me trying to bring all of this and be really open on this is what we're doing is because I don't need people saying, well, my project isn't in there. Well, you didn't send it to me. You sent it to somebody else. This is where we got the information. This is how we made the determination. So it's very neutral, and
I think it's
then the commission can say, hey, we heard all of this and this is how we decided to prioritize. And if the board doesn't, as a whole approve or whatever, I don't know what happens.
Don't envision a board voting on each one of these coming. through.
No,
To
but
say that's a good
yeah,
one,
I
that's a
see-
bad one.
I
No.
see us saying, here's what our priority is. We're making the resolution to fund XYZ and it goes all together and it's presented in just for example, if all of these have a county board function, this is what we determined. Here's how much and these are the projects we're gonna fund at this dollar amount.
So, and we have more money that is needed than what we have to give away. So that goes into my next question. Yeah, do we take the position of partially funding projects? Or do we take the position, give them what they want to, and we run out of money, we run out of money?
To be determined.
Well, I'm just saying, my kind of thought is to give everybody a little bit. Does that really help anything?
Yeah, do you give a few projects a lot of money? Because then that's gonna make a greater impact. If I gave you each $100, is that really gonna do that much rather than giving you 1,000 to fix your car or whatever?
You know,
Yeah,
and what is the feeling of this commission? How do we do that?
are some of these requests, could they be pulled out of here to put into this county government project? The other question is, are some of these city town requests part of that 145 that they thought that they were submitting this as a request for their reimbursement? I don't know that either.
A quick question, are any of these self-disqualifying because of their use or their requests, like they're not supposed to pay off debt, they're not supposed to pay reduced tax? I mean, there are certain disqualifications that we can do, or all these have kind of gone through your vetting and they all
We
potentially.
did not do the vetting because it felt like there was too many questions that we didn't know how to answer, kind of like you, like, maybe a dog park, we might have felt like, no, I'm a cat person, who needs a dog park? But you're like, oh, no, that's part of the county and that's what we do. And so we didn't want to put our own personal
Well, then to tag off,
thought on this.
who answers the questions on each of these 50 projects? Do we have the person who advanced the dog park come to the meeting and justify himself, or is it all morphed into one, like a Washington continuing resolution, and we just vote for all of it or none of it? I mean,
An omnibus?
Yeah, whatever they call
Yeah,
it.
no.
Well, otherwise you're gonna talk about there'll be an amendment I amended to take out the recycling truck. Then there'll be a 18 to 13 vote or whatever. and stay in.
Veto, they go.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah, line item.
I can tell you, how. Sorry, Tom. All right, I can tell you how I'm looking at the top 50% that administrative ask. We are putting together packages. So instead of like looking at parks, and the only reason the pay station came up is because we have a couple projects we have to decide whether they're gonna put them in or not. Because Grundon's getting done right now. But we are looking at a outdoor recreation package that will include the Wawash, will include Walkout Dam, will include our park system. We're looking at packages that, you know, if we look at a public safety package, if we look at a facilities package, which will include airport or facility condition assessment, if there's anything we need to do there. So we're gonna look at giant chunks, that'll come to this commission as discussion. We're kind of having those discussions between one-on-ones and meetings, behind the scenes with department heads. I would see this being the same thing. I think we look at all the housing thing, we look at what that package is.
Sure.
I mean, are we gonna fund projects, or are we gonna say, Lou, what's your recommendation? Do we do a revolving loan fund, whatever we do, and we look at that, we take it a chunk at a time. Because individually, it's,
Yeah.
I have no idea how you do that.
Mhm.
So is this the way you think it should be presented by, or do you think it should be presented under here are housing, here are permanent structure, like, you know, there for community requests, there were a number of them, that property acquisition. I mean, they can be categorized. That's why I liked it in the spreadsheet, because then it can just be organized by however.
Well, there's no right answer, period. So we just take an approach. We do it, we take some hits and we justify how we present it and let people hit it however they want to hit. So I'm fine with this. I'm fine with, I don't know how many department heads you have, but I'm happy to do 3 million in parks, 5 million in housing, 10 million. I mean, I'm happy to have department head allocations out of our ARPA money. That would take a lot of headache away from some of our, and what do I know about this stuff? A department head knows everything about that stuff. So I'm fine with that. And this is a good way to get everybody to know what's out there. And there's more out there than we even know about right now.
Tim?
I'd like to offer two thoughts. One is that I notice a lot of great requests from great organizations. And you know this better than I, that a lot of them are well-funded by their core donors. The Boys and Girls Club is probably not going to hurt for money in Oshkosh or Neenah Menasha or Appleton. They're a great organization. Love them to death, contribute money to them. They get money. There are some of these in here that don't have that depth of resource, that aren't just going to get funded because it's a good concept. So whatever the board decides to do, because we don't decide, whatever the board decides to do, that's kind of in the back of my mind that, again, on the moonshot thing, pick the things that just aren't going to get funded any other way, like waterway repair. It's not sexy. People don't donate money to that.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that it could be that we put this on a doodle poll or some type of thing like that, where we're not doing this today. We're doing it tonight or tomorrow morning or something, and just rank them somehow, saying, you know, this is one that I'd support and this is one that I want. It's a possibility. It's 60 different options, so it's hard to do, but it'll be really hard for us to do it here. So, give another thought.
But I would like to do, and I agree with you to one step. We kept on putting this off and off and off. So if anything, I would like to have a meeting coming up here shortly and go ahead and at least pick out some. Take them to the next board meeting, have them vote them up or down or whatever. And keep on working that way, because we're not going to get all in one night. They're not going to vote them up or down anyway. So that's my thought. John?
A question for you, would you be comfortable if maybe members of the commission had a project we thought that aligns up? To submit them, and I'll step out of the way for that process. And we'll submit to you of things, maybe there's a project here we want to bring forward, number one. And then maybe in the next meeting, maybe we look at the process the other way too. Maybe we, members of the commission will recommend process to say no to. As well, so we can maybe do the process of elimination and maybe take some of these that maybe we all agree with and move forward. I think we could do both. And it would whittle it down a little bit to some decisions.
If you promise me you won't veto it.
We'll see, we'll find out what it is.
Mr. Cox.
I think what is on my mind is how can PNF help in once the projects that are in a go position, they've brought forward to PNF. Okay, that's a good one. Okay, this one's so good or whatever, and they go to the board from PNF. How can that help you? I think first off, the allocation of funds is something that we do. All right, something, whether it's spirit fund or budget fund, okay, it's something that we need to consider doing. And for this committee, okay, or this commission, it should have the same effect as to bringing it through, giving a final approval so that it can be brought forward on the board.
And what you're saying, and I agree to a point with you, but I feel as though it's up to this commission to go ahead and bring it forward to the board.
You make the approvals to the projects.
And I feel as though this commission should make all the approvals to go to the board. That's just my feelings. You can look at Chuck all you want, that's my feelings.
I would agree with Tom. I think my prior statements were that projects have been approved. Then the PNF should have some oversight as the money being appropriated to the project.
And that's clearly what I'm saying as well.
There's
You
a
know,
total
what you were saying-
different things there.
What you were saying is, goes to you guys and you go ahead and say yes or no, whether they should go to the board after that. That's what you just said at first. If I
That's not-
understood you right.
That's not the function.
Right. Corporate counsel.
Can I just remind the commission that the resolution that the county board passed creating this commission specifically said, and I think some of you may recall, that basically the projects come to the commission makes a recommendation to the county board. It did not say it should go to PNF. It specifically said it should go directly to the county board from this commission. I know that.
Yeah.
If optics is important, the community requests are, I think, what are getting on the nerves of the citizens. They understand that the community projects are important. They want to know what affects their lives. So for whatever that's worth, I think that if we're going to go through the list and make some cuts and some recommendations, we might want to start with the community projects, just optics.
Don, do you have something?
Yeah. The last thing I want to do is make this process harder. The TO change is why I was adamant that the position went through PNF. I agree, and it did what it did, and I'm okay with the process and the decision that was made out of my control. As far as these projects, I think it'll be fine for us to put it to the board. So I understand what you're saying as far as allocation and stuff like that goes. Ultimately, it's the board that allocates. Well, currently anything over 40,000, I think is where we set the limit. Right, so, and I think this falls the purview of the board, and we need to start expediting some of this stuff. I do agree with that.
If I could make a suggestion. I'm not sure the timing. Our next commission meeting versus the next county board meeting, when we'd have to have a commission recommendation for the October county board meeting, but pick a number. I recommend we spend $10 million, approve $10 million at our next commission meeting that can be approved at the next county board meeting.
Between both.
Everything we have.
Okay.
Whatever.
That was gonna be my
So,
question.
We
have-
find $10 million,
Mhm.
whether it's, some parks, some this, some that, some this, and we approve it next commission meeting.
Well, that's a different bucket of money, right?
Well,
Yeah, but
I don't care any bucket.
I'm getting pretty close. A lot of the things we've been looking through the budget process. A lot of things I was waiting for priority-based budgeting to see, where our needs
Yeah,
are. And we're almost done with the facilities condition assessment. So there's things there. There is even a project, that's and some of the community asks that I might be, asking goes up to that top ask, because there's an opportunity for us to look at for collaboration, with some of our county facilities.
Bring forward a number,
Right.
and then we'll discuss, vet it, and approve it or recommend it to the county board. When we get off the schneid here, whatever we're on.
Are you saying there are some of these projects that might be better fit for that county government?
Yeah, I mean, there's clearly pickleball is gonna be part of our parks department. It doesn't belong in here. It belongs in part of the outdoor recreational plan that we're
Okay.
doing, that we're figuring out what that's going to be.
Do you want to need a strike line? I mean, leave it in there as seen, but this is.
I think we're giving you too much.
We'll do that after the special.
I think we are.
I
That's
think
not
the
fair.
special orders meeting should see it as we all saw it. They should see this report.
Okay.
And then we'll make some recommendations. But clearly, the Poigan Fire, the Husky boat should be a sheriff, project. The Waiwash Trail, that was a request by a citizen, not an actual entity, but that'll be
But I
part
want,
of
yeah.
the outdoor parks, thing, right?
Just bring forward a number and we'll
Yeah.
move it.
I agree with both of you. I think we gotta go with the citizens. I think these people are
Yeah.
hanging out there and what to do. And I'm just gonna speak because over here, I know what the Armo's going through right now, trying to get that citizenship. They don't have any now. They had to buy their own building, all that. They got kept out. So I hear they're using part of the, we're using part of it. And we don't have a place to do some of the things now. So I'm just saying that one now I know, and so what are they going to do? But there's lots of other ones than that. So what we're gonna use 10 million, or are we gonna say at least 10 million, or
It's at least, and I don't care what bucket it comes out of.
are you making that a motion?
Sure.
I don't know how do we follow that?
Yeah,
Well,
I
I'm
don't
saying at
think,
least.
I don't know if you're into the motion thing.
We're an informal committee, aren't we? No, we
We
are
are.
formal.
But I think, now like a one bucket, we got 9.
Mhm.
So the 10 million would apply actually to that. But if you're gonna put some of the stuff into the other bucket of money, then you would have more available. So
Not a lot, yeah.
let's get that figured out first. What would apply to your bucket you're referring to? And then we'll know what we got left.
That's up to John. Anyway.
Good,
All
no,
right, I would say that we bring the radio ask at least in the next meeting and look at that whole package. I would say that we recommend maybe a couple of the community asks, that we know are time sensitive. That would be able to be in there. Maybe we talk about Abro, right. But I am not going, and this is just my commitment, I am not going to propose any ask out of the community thing. I'm gonna leave it up to the rest of you. You know, anything that I propose will be on that top 50%. I'm going to stay out of bringing up the community thing. So I think that's for you guys to decide what's gonna. I'm going to try to make it known that I am not here to try to direct, other than it's more of a collaboration. Is
We
why
can
I'm
talk
here.
about it.
Yes, Morris, I want to be very clear that if DNF is not involved in, damping the food or whatever, any of these projects that they come through, to go to the board, then all of these projects deal only with spirit fund money, and they don't deal with any money coming out of the budget. And the budget in turn gets the money that has been displaced because of engineering and design or whatever else, any CIP project down the line that happens to be drawn in, that also happened to have an ask a year ago, 2 years ago, or whatever, for budget money. In other words, that budget money comes out of it before the spirit money gets approved for it.
When this commission was designed, the person that was in your spot as chairman of that committee was on here because of that, so that you guys would have a say in that part of it and be part of it. So there is a part of your committee at all times, part of this commission.
I understand that.
So, and that's why it was.
General policy,
I do not believe that the whole thing's got to go back through your whole committee.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying anything that has to do with the budget money. Well, okay, anything, you know, we're drawing off out of a undesignated fund, or we're drawing because of, that comes through PNF. That does not get thrown directly to the board. Okay. If it's spirit money, fine, go to the board.
I interpret what you're saying is you want to make sure there's no duplication between CIP requested funds and spirit funding for the same project.
Right.
You gotta make sure that if we approve it on spirit fund and it's in a CIP project already identified and publicized, it needs to be pulled up.
Right.
Because you're duplicating, right? Is that what you're looking for?
I'm looking for the replacement of any budget money that was approved at one time out of, on spirit, out of CIP programs.
Yeah.
Plans or whatever. That gets removed before you start adding in spirit money. No.
Which like the generator was, that's the one you're
Yeah,
talking about.
exactly.
That's
Good
the
point.
one you're talking about. Yeah.
That was amendment of during the budget. I had no control over that. But I agree with you. I mean, this commission has no authority. Well, let's be realistic. This commission has no authority to spend spirit fund dollars. We can only recommend to the board.
Right.
Or
They're the ones that do. Yeah. So I think I
But we have to
understand.
keep it separate, that's what
Right.
I'm saying, and if it isn't separate, you know, we have no.
This commission has no authority to recommend any general fund spending whatsoever, spirit. Period.
And what's the soonest that we can meet again and everyone feels, oh, you're not just spirited out?
I'm free tomorrow. I would like to. Yeah, yeah, there's a lot of staff time that's got to go into this radio thing at least. I don't know what that's gonna
I
take.
think Cassie, we talked and I think she had something for next month if you wanted, unless you wanted to try. Report.
I was thinking if you were gonna keep it on like the every 2 weeks, Thursday, September 14th, this room's available. Or if you wanna go out further, I can continue looking.
September 14th.
that meet your time frame, Cassie, for getting everything all together?
As long as I have,
You got to come to board the 19th.
As long as he has the agenda, that's what she wants.
Oh, you mean to get something passed, right, and then on to the county board by 19?
No, I'm not saying that, I'm
Yeah,
just trying to be considered of a
Right.
No, it went beyond the county board. No.
When's WCA?
17th, 18th, and 19th.
Right. Yeah.
So is the next meeting to
The 19th.
determine some projects to move forward?
To discuss recommending projects to the county board for.
Yeah, that,
You should
does
have-
that give you enough time?
You should have
Very little to nothing to do between now and then because.
Favorite person right now.
I wanna get a good presentation for this, but we are like dead in the middle of budget meetings right now, so I'm worried about that. Paul, would you think Leslie would have any ability to put together some kind of, look at the radios for the districts and, or is she pretty swamped right now too?
I wouldn't say she's swamped. I think she doesn't have any knowledge of what
You
you're
might
talking
be
about.
Well, that's what I'm saying, it's like, if we got her the people to talk to, could she at least put together an analysis for us? On radios, maybe?
I'd rather do it the 21st.
21st, how does that work for you?
That's a little closer to, due date.
21st, this room's not available.
Right.
What's that?
From out here.
The 21st, this room's not available.
Okay.
So we have to check room 120. Let me look at it.
You want two meetings,
I'm available 14th and 21st. I'm
and
not available next week.
what about 28th? Are we looking at two meetings, Tom, or just one a month?
Well, right now, she's just looking to see when the room's available.
28th, I would not be here.
Okay.
There's the due date of daughter number 5, guarantee I will not be here.
21st,
County board meeting.
Right.
The 14th would be better.
That's the 19th, that's at night, so hopefully we're not going into the night.
I think the 14th will work for some of this stuff, you know, providing if we can get something together for radios, I don't know, but at least for some of the projects that anybody wants to, or to Tom to consider.
Well, that 10 million, whatever it is,
What do you
working on
mean?
that amount, right?
Well, it's Tom.
In other words, he isn't gonna touch them. You would have anything that you want.
If you have a project you want to bring
Okay.
forward,
Yeah, don't you just bring it forward on the floor by a motion? Are you suggesting you want to filter?
no, I'm not suggesting the word filter, but if you want to have any documentation to go with that,
Yeah,
as far as a resolution bring to the board, if you don't want to do that, that's fine too.
No, I'm just saying, as a commission here, I think each one of us, if you got a project that you think is good, you should bring it up with us, probably if you want. You're suggesting we call the chairman? or
I mean,
present a
I
project
would,
to him?
because then at least, we have time to.
What if chairman decides you don't want to bring that forward?
Right.
We'll vote him out.
So, yeah, I don't, that's how it works.
You do need, your agenda report. You need to have the background of the project before you throw it to the board.
Oh, I suppose we can do that.
Do we have to do that, Mary Ann, or can we put,
You don't have
voting on,
Well, you need a resolution and an agenda item.
on every item, or can we just say decision and possible action?
Well,
Any-
you approve it, then you draft the resolution.
Well, if I could, any of my department heads need to have an agenda item report and a draft resolution before they bring anything to committee, because that's my direction. I have no authority to tell any of these people how to do what they want to do. So if they want to
Understand
do,
that, But if you're voting as a commission
Mhm.
to bring forward items, you can't talk in broad terms. You have to have bullets points as to what you're planning on doing. And I think it would be, again, in whoever's interest, to have the board that's gonna be voting on this have the information. And have it not on the night of the meeting, because that's not, you need to have it ahead of time.
Well, you're saying something completely different
So
then.
what
In
do you-
other words, what we're saying, maybe you phrase that a little differently, is if you want to bring something up for approval, you get it to Tom so he can put it on the agenda. And identify it to the public.
well, on the agenda, number one, and number two, it allows us to maybe put a resolution, draft resolution.
Yeah,
or-
I guess I misunderstood that
Right.
direction.
Are you talking about the September 5th meeting?
No.
We're talking about the 14th.
Just read the commission.
We agree on.
ARPA commission.
I don't know what we agreed on, Tom.
Just, and so at the 14th meeting, if we're gonna say we're going to be choosing $10 million worth of expenditure projects, can that go on the agenda?
You mean from this list?
From the list, right, from community requests.
Okay, all I would say is we need to make sure that all of these lists, which I understand the city, village, town request and the community request, is actually part of the main list. Try to just
Parse it down.
dumb it down. Okay. You should definitely have this sent out before your September 14th meeting. So again, the public can see the list that you are going through. And I understand that this main list was discussed at the last meeting, and I believe copies were provided. But we again have to make sure that it's posted so that the public can see it as well.
Would that be sufficient enough to satisfy chapter 19 and then pick from the list and vote?
If this is the list, if you start adding projects that are not included in the list, that have not been vetted, then we've got a problem.
But you've got them all on there now, other than radios.
No, I have radios on there and I have,
Pretty big.
yeah, this one, this has everything except for this Brian Hardison.
$4 million.
But this does have the Rachel Dowling request.
Right, that's why I'm saying you have everything but the one that would.
Yes, yes, and I would also say though, on these community projects, there are things that, yes, they fit the criteria, but we as a citizen review committee said it might fit the criteria, but we've got a lot of questions about the financials and the stability of the organization. So I don't think we would even feel comfortable if you said, yep, let's fund
We defer it.
ABC. I would be okay with these are the ones that we'd like to fund and learn more information about. And then I could see us going to and saying, okay, I don't know how to say it without making it seem like, yay, you're in the top running, but we'd like more information like financials and some of the questions that we brought up. So,
But you would add to this list that you just provided everybody, this piece.
do you want me to add?
Yeah. That's gonna be one of the first things
Okay.
we're gonna talk about, correct?
The radio,
Radios.
well, hopefully if
So
we
that
get
will be a
prepared
totally
time.
separate thing.
And that's gonna be, will we have the material ready for the agenda or the packets going out? Probably not. We'll probably need a little bit more time if Leslie's gonna do this, and I don't wanna speak for the capacity of the financial analyst that we have, but we'll.
The challenge with this is I think it's been broken up.
Right.
Like, so this looks like one big request, but it's made up of Menasha, Fox Crossing, Nina Menasha Fire, I believe.
There's some
It's
police in
already
there.
included.
Not all of it, not all of it. That's
Yeah, not all of it.
Yeah.
So there's the struggle, is this thing,
These are-
I don't know.
All I'm saying is,
That's that letter.
So that would be a separate packet, a separate
to
item.
comply with open meeting, you need to attach anything you're gonna discuss.
so
So
basically these
if
two
you wanna have a
documents,
separate packet of this, and then have the main
everything.
log, that's fine.
Because the radios we talked about separate. But they're
Except
not
the
even on
problem
the
is you've
list.
got some of the radios in this.
Some
page.
of them, they're
Yeah.
talking about doing a county-wide radio there.
Right, but I just
Yeah.
I wanna make sure there's no duplication. In other words, if you're going through this and then, but presumably, you would not address the radios in this if you're addressing an overall radio situation in this packet.
We can subtract from the big thing, but not add to it.
Right.
We can subtract to say, oh,
This is gonna be included in this packet.
yeah. So then-
Just as long as whatever you're discussing, and you all know this, is posted and provided to the public. And I know you all want to comply with that.
So we agree on the 14th. Everyone make it on the 14th,
Yeah, I'm,
1 o'clock again. Does that work out for everyone?
Nancy, is that here or?
That would be here.
Okay.
So then if any documentation, I would be sending out the agenda
With
then
WCA?
on the 7th at the latest. So any documentation I would need probably by the 7th that morning. That would be the very max.
right.
I'm just letting you know, so.
Mary Ann, do you have people that can write resolutions in your office?
On the 14th.
or the seventh. Yeah, we'll have Tuesday and Wednesday, let me just see if we.
My office doesn't have capacity to do that, right now, but as long as we can work with other people in the county, we can have some stuff ready.
They can see all the stuff that you're having to go to. How many resolutions are we talking about?
Just be the one that, for the radios, and the other one will be looking at some sheets and citing. from there.
Picking something that fits
Prioritizing.
the criteria,
Prioritizing, right.
not all of them, but some.
So those probably wouldn't go to resolution, though, that's a
Right.
work group, we're just, that's the
Yeah,
discussion, and the resolution would maybe more be the radios.
So we're talking, that should be fine, even if we have these other obligations, we can work around it, provided we can get it.
How are you gonna do the resolution without the
We just recommend that the county does.
breakdown? By the seventh?
Not by the seventh, it would be, but we need it at least by the fifth. So we have a day to try to.
It's gonna be working with John's, one of John's assistants.
Yes.
Contact you.
Yeah, Paul, well, I'll try to run this through Adam Belcarelli, and then connect with Leslie for.
Wait a minute, just so if Kathy has to get this out on the seventh, as I said, we would need it no later than the sixth, ideally by the fifth, which is the day after Labor Day, and today is Thursday.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
this is,
Friday and
you don't wanna, and how are you gonna compile all of this information? You know, you don't wanna shoot yourself in the foot by trying to get this done and take shortcuts.
So you're saying the 21st is better?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or the 28th, yeah.
The fifth is gonna be a late night.
Having a baby.
Yeah, 28th is fine, you're just gonna.
Oh,
do it
that, I'm
on-
sorry.
No, I
Sorry.
could have staff here,
You
yeah.
never know, could be early and.
Well, that's why it makes me concerned about the 21st.
Yeah.
There's lots of experience.
So the radios, to get all the information compiled for the costs and which department it goes to and all that kind of stuff, it's gonna take a while. That shouldn't hold us up from the other stuff, because is anyone on your side of the table going to complain about radios at some point down the road? I mean,
Yeah,
we need that, right?
Right, we could still meet on other stuff.
yeah, on this other community project.
Let's get working.
Oh, yeah.
Let's get working and the radios will come because they're gonna have to.
The community requests are probably an easier because they don't have to go through PNF, they're probably right in the, like, most. Lynn's probably waiting to hear yes or no.
Yeah, that, exactly.
And that,
right.
I mean, that's the struggle, is I'm sure a lot of nonprofits are like, I just need to know yes or no because we're at a standstill also, so. And with the supervisor, the board, I mean, are they just, if they say, no, we don't want any community projects, well, okay, unfortunately, but then at least that's done and now these nonprofits can move on, because I know they've been waiting. So.
So let's still go with the 14th then and talk about the radios after John's next daughter comes along.
How much
And if it
time,
works, it works. Radios come in, they come in.
Yeah.
how
Put it on the
much,
list.
how much time are you going to give them to work on the radios? So he's got an end date that he can work with.
Probably
None.
in October.
But I'll tell you that I'll allow my admin four to work with you.
Yeah.
And if, Paul, if Leslie has any time to work with them too, that's fine, but it won't be me. I'm in the middle of budget right now, is what I'm saying. It won't be Ethan. He's in the middle of budget right now. We're trying to make sure that's why he's not here today. We got too much stuff that we're trying to get ready for the deadlines for the meeting on that. But
We're gonna have a baby.
It would be October.
Yeah. So are we all set then for the 14th at 1 o'clock here?
Moving forward, I think we're gonna do.
I have one more question, if I may, to Lou Shear, the
Sure.
housing coordinator. Lou, if you want to do, an idea of, or a breakdown of all the housing, permanent housing structures, what that looks like, what our needs are, how much time would you need to talk to this commission about that? When can you have that ready?
Certainly be ready by the 14th.
Okay. So maybe that's another discussion.
It might be a long meeting.
You know,
Maybe.
I would really like to go ahead and pick some things
Yep.
and then have her come to the next meeting.
Right, that's one.
But I'd like to get this rolling and get
Yeah.
some money going.
Right.
So I'll do the next meeting if that's okay.
Probably.
Okay,
Probably.
I am open then for adjournment.
Motions. Very good.
Motion made, second adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Carried. We will see some of you on Tuesday evening.